In a world where content gets swapped every episode, one couple will swap two pieces of content and try to get to the bottom once again of what the deal is with Parabolic Calculus.
We should start a sub podcast that's just called Parabolic Calculus.
The Parabolic Calculus podcast. That's not a bad idea. We just talk about movies with fake science.
Honestly, I'm here for that.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
We need to get like guest speakers who are actual scientists,
right,
to like debunk like the movies.
Yeah, and episode 1 will be focused on source code.
Oh God,
with Jake Gyllenhaal, the original Parabolic Calculus movie.
You can't put me through that again.
Welcome back to the Content Swap podcast. This is not the Parabolic Calculus podcast, but let us know if you want it to be. This is a podcast in where we, a couple, exchange content.
You didn't say a married couple.
A married couple with a baby on the way. What do we do? What is this podcast? We exchange content every week. We watch it or read it or play it, whatever it is. We discuss it on the podcast. We go through like pretty much everything that's like worth talking about it that we know that's like publicly available, aka what's on IMDb trivia. That is our main source. We could maybe have better sources of behind the scenes information, but that's what we do. Yeah, we watch the movies, we talk about them, we talk about our feelings, we just dive into discussions, and then we dive a little bit into some of the facts. So before we do that, we like to give a little life news update, things that are going on with us in the past week, mostly just content that we've been engaging with in the past week. So I will let you go first, as I always do.
Yeah. I really don't have...
Oh, and what's your name?
Aaliyah.
And my name is Parker. Welcome to our podcast. Continue.
I don't have too much content that I've engaged with. I have been preparing for a big presentation that I was giving at work today. And I gave that presentation. I'm really proud of myself. I was really nervous. It was given to 180 people. So, woohoo! That's over.
Good job.
But
and we celebrated with milkshakes.
Yeah. Which I'm probably going to regret later. But anyways, like I said, I didn't get to really engage with much content lately. So in terms of movies, I did watch that new Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon movie called You're Cordially Invited. It's basically about...
What's that streaming on?
It's on...
Is that Prime?
Amazon Prime, I think.
Okay.
But it's basically about Will Ferrell's trying to set up a wedding for his daughter, and Reese Witherspoon's setting up a wedding for her sister, and they accidentally booked the same place for the same weekend, and this place is like a really small venue on like a little island, and so they only typically do one wedding a weekend. So then like clearly
so it's Bride Wars.
Yes, essentially, except they're like unrelated. So they're like fighting for this venue and like sabotaging each other's weddings on this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not love it. It was not a great movie, and also the ending is just so dumb. I saw it coming because it felt like, I don't want to say what the ending is in case people want to watch it since it is very new.
Gotcha. I mean, is it like just reminiscent of your typical Reese Witherspoon / Will Ferrell movie? I mean, they make different types of movies, but they don't necessarily make... They make predictable movies with predictable endings, you know?
Yeah, it is a very predictable movie with a predictable ending. But like, to me, they are two very different people, so I wasn't buying their interaction, if that made sense.
Okay.
Like, it just felt like a weird match.
I mean, were there jokes?
I mean, it's supposed to be humorous. It's like humorous? Comedy, yeah.
Okay. Does Reese Witherspoon have jokes?
I mean, I wouldn't say like jokes, but like she like
has
is involved in the antics.
To like, yeah, okay, her personality like contributes to the general comedic vibe, but she doesn't like. Whereas like Will Ferrell might be like riffing, saying just whatever stupid line he can come up with.
Yeah, like he's like his silly self.
Yeah.
And she's more of like a, I'm gonna be like over the top revengeful self type of.
Gotcha.
You know.
And we're entertained by that.
Right. It's like the two together then makes it.
Yeah.
The comedy it's meant to be, I guess.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I didn't love it.
You did not love it.
No.
Gotcha.
No. I don't know. Check it out if you're absolutely bored, have nothing else to do. Sure, but if you're looking for a good movie, don't don't bother.
I think there's just it's really interesting how much like garbage content like that comes out when it's like, all we do is consume content. I mean, that's not all that we do, but just like, the idea behind content like that is that it's to provide something new for people on whatever streaming service, and it's kind of like. There's so much new stuff to keep up with, but there's so much good stuff that I feel like a lot of people just haven't seen. I would like to see a little more promoting the old stuff. I don't know. It just makes me sad when it's like, yeah, watch that or watch this new Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx movie. It's like, yes, we do need people to be engaging with the new stuff, but when it's such crap, it makes you wish people would go watch something great that they've never seen before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a person where there's times where I want something very mindless to watch, especially if I'm going to do something else. So like, yeah. I think I don't remember what I was doing when I watched that movie, but I wasn't just sitting and watching it. It was like I was crocheting or something like that. And so I do, there's only so many things I can watch from the past because I've seen it all. So like it's like, okay, there's a new one, like sure, I'll pop it on the TV, see what it's about.
You haven't seen it all. I'm saying there's like,
but I'm talking about the mindless, like clearly I haven't seen every movie to exist. So there are great phenomenal movies I have not seen, sure, but those aren't the movies I'm looking for in that moment when I'm looking to just like watch something that's just mind numbing.
So you're looking for brain rot content
sometimes. Or like things that doesn't require my full attention.
Yeah.
And like so, but I feel like there can be new things that do it well. Like for example, like Anyone But You, like the Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell movie. Like I thought it was a cute movie. Yeah. And it's like that's a very like I feel like kind of falls into the realm of like kind of like a brainless, like you don't really need to think about it. It's just like a silly little movie.
I hear your argument.
Yeah. And so it's like it can be done well. And like be something that you're like, oh, that was cute.
I mean that is clearly there's a market for this because they keep making movies like this.
Right.
I don't know. I mean I get it. Yeah. I also like I get it, I understand it. I also just like can't relate with wanting to watch something like mindless, I guess. Like if I have an opportunity to throw on something that I want to throw on in the background, I'll put on like One Piece, which like at least I'm contributing to something that's like long that I also enjoy the story of. Or I'll put on like the Double Fine Psych Odyssey documentary about the making of Psychonauts 2. Like I can work with that on in the background. It's like, okay, well like I'm still paying attention to it. So but I guess I can't I listen to a lot of podcasts while I work and I like put music on sometimes while I work. So I guess I just can't relate to working while something's on as well as you can.
I mean, I'm not like if I'm doing work, like if I'm working,
okay,
I'm putting on something that I really like am not paying attention
Gotcha.
Like Love Is Blind.
Gotcha.
This is more of like if I want to draw, but I want background noise.
Gotcha.
Or if I want to, crochet or something, and I just want something in the background playing.
Okay.
And then that's when I'm watching it. But I also think we're so different because you like if you have free time, it's most likely going to be playing games, and so you don't engage with like shows or movies as much as I do,
right?
Because you're using that that time for something you're passionate about, which is games.
Yeah,
versus,
I'm like always trying to hack away at some kind of list that I have.
right. Like,
you know?
you're like, I have this time, I need to do it. Like, what am I going to spend it doing? Because there's like 10 million things that I want to do.
I'm like, I could watch these anime shows that I'm watching and I want to finish, or I could play these games that I want to finish.
Right.
And it's just a different mode.
Exactly. Versus me, where like when I have free time, I'm kind of like, I don't really know what I want to do. Like, there's not anything in particular that I'm like really feeling. So then I choose what I do based on mood. And so like, if I'm having a hard day, I'm going to watch something more like this. That's like, you know, silly and doesn't require me to think because I've been thinking all day at work.
Yeah.
But if it's like, or if it's like a Saturday where it's like I don't have anything going on, then I'm looking for like, okay, what's an actual good thing to watch? Like, what do I really want to spend this time doing?
All right, I see you.
So yeah,
Cool.
but yeah.
Any other content you've been engaging with?
Yes. So a good piece of content that I have engaged
good content. You don't usually bring that to the
wow.
table.
Just hate on
Good
me.
Content.
Whatever.
I guess I'll be the judge of that.
Pretentious little thing. Oh my gosh. But a really good show that I watched start to finish, like, well, it's only 2 seasons, but I went through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, you watched it in like a week.
Yeah, and that is Kevin Can F Himself. F being the F word.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting show.
Yeah, super interesting. So I finished it, like a day or so ago?
You want to explain the gimmick of the show?
Yeah, which I think I did talk about it last.
Well, just sum it up again.
Yeah, so basically it's centered around this woman. Honestly, I forget her character name, to be honest. What was her character name? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
But it's centered around this woman who is married to this guy, and the guy like lives in a bubble. Like everything works out for him. He's super goofy. He's super like selfish, but doesn't realize he's being selfish. He thinks he's just like being great to everybody in his life when he's like being terrible to everybody in his life. And so in the scenes where she's with him, it's filmed like a sitcom. And so he's like up to his like silly little antics for that episode or whatever.
And there's like a laugh track too.
Right. There's like laugh tracks to it. You know, everybody kind of plays into their little role on the show. Even though it's not like a show, it's just filmed like it's just like a sitcom.
And it's filmed with that like one camera angle style.
Yeah. Like the lighting is like very bright and like all that stuff. And so, yeah, when he's around, everything is filmed like a sitcom. Now, when he's not around, so for example, as soon as maybe she leaves the room, everything goes to like regular life, but it's like kind of gloomy
like
and dark. Yeah.
It's like you're watching Fargo all of a sudden.
Yeah, it gets like very dark and like kind of I don't even know, like just like very
depressing.
Yeah, it's depressing. But like that's the point, because she absolutely hates him and is miserable and is like trying to figure out a way out. A way out from being his wife. And and so it starts with her planning to murder him. And then it just turns into chaos as you watch the show. The plans change often. Things happen. And so, yeah, it's just like super interesting. And it's interesting when what I liked about it too was like, you know, typically it was just like her when it's just a scene with her, it's like would turn into that like dark kind of ominous vibe. Then it was like her and the neighbor. They would interact in the dark, ominous vibe. And then like slowly more and more characters you would see outside of the sitcom.
Okay.
And it would be like really like weird. You're like, oh snap. Like now this guy's like outside of the sitcom bubble.
Oh, so it's like characters you would only see in the sitcom scenes that weren't Kevin, and now you're seeing them outside of the presence of Kevin, and you're realizing like, oh, that person's got damage.
Yeah. Like there's like one particular
That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's one particular character who plays like Kevin's best friend. And for the most part, you only see him with Kevin. So you see him as this like very silly character. And then something happens. I won't spoil it, but something happens. And now we're seeing him in the real world, and he like his personality
sucks.
pivots.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't say he sucks because like he's just going through it. But then what becomes interesting is because he's going through it outside of Kevin, when he's now back in these like sitcom scenes, he's being really weird, and Kevin's like, you're being weird. Like, you're not. Like, you're like, it's like his responses aren't what they used to be in the sitcom because like of what's going on outside of Kevin. And so that was just like really cool and interesting to watch, and I enjoyed watching his character a lot. But yeah, it's a cool show. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Is it on Netflix?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's just 2 seasons, like I said, so pretty short. I think the episodes are kind of long though. And then the last thing that I engaged with is I am halfway through Onyx Storm. I'm literally like at the 50% mark, which is
the third book of the Fourth Wing book series.
Yes. I am halfway through it. I think last time I mentioned that I'm just like not sure how I feel about it. I think I'm still kind of like that. I don't know. Some parts I'm like invested, some parts I'm just not. And so I feel very up and down about it right now.
Seems like everybody's reading this book right now. We were watching a YouTuber that we like to watch. What's his name? Dylan.
Yeah.
Had a video, and like his girlfriend, he like came home and his girlfriend was reading that book.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, everybody's reading it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the most popular series right now. I feel like we haven't had a series that everyone was so invested in since like Hunger Games, you know?
Not since Harry Potter, Twilight, Hunger Games.
I was like, Harry Potter was way before those.
Yeah.
So yeah, this feels like a new era of that. And like, I mean, I was just on my Goodreads, like checking up, seeing what other people are reading. And it's like 4 of my friends are all reading Onyx Storm right now. And I'm like, I love this. This is fun because then we can talk about it.
What do you think it's going to, sorry, this is kind of completely different. What do you think it's going to be like for our child growing up with like we grew up with like, I don't know, the Star Wars prequels and sequels coming out as we were getting older, and with the Harry Potter movies coming out as we got older. Like, what do you think it's going to be like for our child or children to like to like grow up and be like, oh, I can watch that whole series in one go. Like, how do I put this? Like, I had never seen Star Wars maybe when I was like 4 years old, but I knew like, oh, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Mm-hmm. So like, are our children gonna know like, oh yeah, Dumbledore dies, you know?
I mean, maybe. Like, I didn't see Star Wars for the first time until like college.
But did you know that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father?
Because it's so popular in
Luke,
culture.
I am your father. Even though that's not how he even says it in the movie.
Yeah. And there's so many references to it in other movies. Like Toy Story had a reference to it. And with Zorg or whatever his name is.
Oh, yeah. Zurg.
Zorg. Close enough.
Austin Powers 2 did it.
Yeah. It was so highly referenced that like you couldn't escape it.
So I guess they don't highly reference Dumbledore dying in other media. Anyway, just a tangent.
No. But I'm sure they'll like have awareness of Harry Potter. They'll be like,
yeah.
The boy who lived.
I'm just like, what? At what age? So here's another interesting thing. So like, I had a friend who had younger siblings, well, like in college, and their parents would be like, oh, like you can watch, like this Star Wars movie, but not this one because it's a little more mature, right? Like, we grew up with Harry Potter 1 and 2, which are very like whimsical, feel much more child friendly while still kind of having slightly darker tones at times. But like, when it like, say your kid's like 7 and he's like, oh yeah, I want to watch Harry Potter, do we just limit him to like 1 and 2? Do we let him go all the way up to like, Deathly Hallows Part 2 when people are dying and stuff?
I mean, I think he'll be fine.
Okay, all right.
In my opinion,
I'm okay with that. But
I feel like the comparison between that and like Star Wars is a little different.
I don't see. I feel like Harry Potter has.
I mean, Leia in that freaking outfit.
Okay, I'm not worried about Leia's outfit, if I'm being honest. But I do think the Harry Potter. Yeah, Harry Potter has much more of a capacity for violence than I feel like Star Wars does. Though the two are comparable.
I mean, I'm not, if our kid's like 5, he's not going to watch Deathly Hallows Part 2.
No, he's not going to absorb it
right.
at all.
So, yeah, you watch like maybe the first one and if he likes it, it's cool.
Right.
And then later on you can say like, oh, there's more.
Well, I don't know if we'll introduce him to Harry Potter at
I feel like
5 years old.
Yeah, I feel like Harry Potter is like I don't know. I think once they are able to like read on their own,
could be a nighttime story. You got good little nighttime reading visual books.
It's like once they're able to kind of like
Potter.
read on their own. So maybe like people can read on their own when they're like 2nd grade, but like they're reading very small books. But once they can like read more complex stories.
I mean, I remember kids were reading, like when I was in 2nd grade, kids were reading, Goblet of Fire, which was like a 400-page book.
Yeah, in elementary school, there were a ton of kids who were reading Harry Potter. It was in our library.
Yeah.
So I feel like once they can like do that, then it's like, okay, I think you'll be okay to watch all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to read those books.
I mean, we have the first 3.
Yeah, I know. We should do that.
Yeah. I need to finish the series. But yeah. It just depends on like what it is, what the series is. Like Hunger Games, maybe that's you wait a little bit longer for that.
It's called YA for a reason.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not something I'll expose early on. Right. Harry Potter seems much more approachable than Hunger Games.
Now, when it comes to like PG-13 movies, just like, is there an age like 10 in where it's like, yeah, PG-13 movies, it's fine. Like any PG-13 movie goes?
I don't know. See, my mom didn't regulate movies like
neither
that.
Did I.
So like,
neither did mine. But like, I mean, rated R movies, it was like, if there was going to be nudity in it, I don't think it was until I was like 12. Like up until I was like 12, my mom would be like, cover your eyes.
Close your eyes.
Yeah. And I would
That's what my mom would say too. Oh, I was for sure peeking through my fingers.
I peeked a couple of times. I remember there was one time my brother and I were watching a movie. I think we were watching like Old School, which was like a Will Ferrell comedy.
Yeah.
And there was like my brother and I, we were young, and he was like, there's about to be nudity. We need to cover our eyes. And we're like 9 and 11 years old, being such good boys, covering our eyes.
Aw, that's so cute. That's so funny. I mean, like, rated R movie, like my parents would watch movies and, they'd be watching a movie downstairs and I'd be upstairs in my room, like playing.
Yeah.
And I'd come down and I'd be like, oh, what are you watching? Can I watch? And they'd be like, no, you can't watch this. And so then I'd be like, okay. And I'll just go up I just went upstairs.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I'm not exposing my child to rated R movies.
No. I mean, like, once they hit 13, it's like maybe it's a little more okay for them to watch rated R movies with you at home. Like when you do family movie night, it's like, all right, we can open it up to rated R movies. Maybe not like, Pineapple Express. But or maybe I don't know.
Is there nudity in that though? I feel like that's pretty.
I'm not talking about nudity. Yeah. I'm talking. I'm talking about like the raunchy comedies. But but I also feel like I was watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall when I was like 13. 13, I feel like it's like
they've probably seen it all at that point.
It's fine. Yeah, they're on the internet at that point.
We are not condoning that we will be showing our 13-year-old rated R movies.
But I feel like that's probably fine. Like once they're around like 9, it's like almost every PG-13 movie's A-okay, and then 10, I feel like it's fine.
It's just hard because now like they have so much access to internet, social media, like things on the
That's where we have a responsibility as parents to try and regulate that to a healthy amount.
Right. But, the kids, they go to school, they talk to their little friends about one of their friends says, I saw this on the internet. They're like, shows them. And
go to Blue I'm not going to finish that sentence. Blueblank.com.
I don't know what that is.
Google image search blue. I'm not going to finish that sentence, but those that know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about.
I must still be an innocent little soul because I have no clue what you're talking about.
All right. Well, how about blank spin? How about that one?
What is that?
All right. I just know Ryan is listening to this, laughing to himself. Hey, gosh. Ryan, what's up, man?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm like, it's as much as we can try and regulate, he's gonna end up finding
for sure
things,
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, we have a responsibility to try to limit the screen time to a healthy amount. But yeah, once he's on the internet and all of that, like, yeah, and his friends are like, "Oh, I was on Roblox or whatever," and they're gonna find like,
oh my gosh, I hope he's not on Roblox.
Yeah, I hope not.
I just
needs to have taste.
I'm so naive. I'm like, my sweet little baby boy, he's gonna be reading. He's just gonna want to hang out with his mama. Like,
I would love for him to like reading.
He's not gonna be interested in anything online. I'm like, I know that's far from the truth, but I'm just trying to hold on to it.
I'd like for him to be like, Dad, what's Metroid? Can you teach me about every Metroid game and why they're good and how the mechanics evolved over the course of the series evolution? Like, I would love to hear him ask me questions like that, and then we can have father-son bonding time.
Yeah,
I know it's gonna be like, I need the newest Minecraft mods, and it's like, ugh.
No. I want him to say, "Take me to the library."
Yeah.
I want him to be a reader so bad.
I hear you.
He could be anything he wants. Cool. But yeah, I just want him to enjoy reading a book.
I think we just need to teach him how to enjoy reading. Yeah, teach him how to read. That's number one.
That's the first one.
I mean, I didn't read any of the books growing up, like for school.
Yeah.
And it was a major causer of stress having to write book reports on books I never read.
See, I loved all the books we read for school.
Yeah, I would love for him to love the books for school. Yeah. Gosh.
Or even if he doesn't like it, even if he doesn't enjoy reading, like my dad, I think I said this before, my dad used to take me to the public library and we would get drawing books and we would draw together. Like these little art books that was like, learn how to draw different bugs.
I was just looking for like, do they have Power Rangers? Like, honestly, I'd get to I'd be like, where's the Power Ranger stuff?
Oh my god!
And I'm like, they have nothing. Like, why would I come here?
The public library was like my favorite place to go. It was so fun.
All right, well then we got to take him to the public library.
I for sure will.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a fun discussion. What were you even talking about?
We're talking about Onyx Storm.
Oh.
And how everybody's reading Onyx Storm. But that's all that I have. So you go ahead and share what you've been up to.
Not much, to be honest. I've been playing Sly 2 Band of Thieves, which I haven't really touched in like 3 weeks. I've been playing The Last of Us Part 2. I'm about 2/3 of the way done with it. Hoping to make some good progress on that tomorrow. Because baby is almost here and I need to have that game finished before then. And I finished playing Devil May Cry 3, which was honestly like really good. I would play that game again. It's like old, but it really stands the test of time, and it's hard too. But it's not like unteachably hard. Like, you can learn it and get good at it. Great game. Really good game. So I started Devil May Cry 4, naturally, in my attempt to get through all of the Devil May Cry games. So once I finish 4, then I have to play the DMC Devil May Cry reboot. That was my first game in the series. And then Devil May Cry 5, which I'm really looking forward to, because that game slaps. Then aside from that, I finished watching the Terminator anime, Terminator Zero, and then I have one episode left of Dawn to Dawn and Chainsaw Man, respectively. And I have decided that once I finish those, I am going to keep watching anime. I don't know how frequently, but just like the anime that I will be attempting to get through are going to be 3 different anime, which the episode count. I'll just say what they are. It's Frieren Beyond Journey's End. That's like a new one. Then there's Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. That's Ghost in the Shell is the one that Scarlett Johansson movie adapted.
Yeah.
I've seen the original like anime film for Ghost in the Shell, but there's like a 52 episode show that they did. That's like each episode is a standalone, which is why it's called Standalone Complex. That I've never seen. So I decided I will watch that. And then the third show I want to watch is Vinland Saga Season 2. So it turns out that like there's 52 episodes of Ghost in the Shell, 28 episodes of Frieren, and 24 episodes of Vinland Saga. So if you add the number of episodes between Frieren and Vinland Saga Season 2, it adds...
What did you just say? Frieren?
Frieren. I don't know how to say it. I could just say Frieren, but it's like Frieren. But if you combined Frieren... I feel like I'm Wiener Schnitzel. If you combine Frieren and Vinland Saga Season 2, it comes out to the same number of episodes as Ghost in the Shell. So, which is perfect because I have a history of doing this thing of like I'll watch like 3 different anime at the same time, and then I'll figure out like an order in which to watch them, in which I will like be switching off between each show, but then finish them all at the same time. So I just gotta watch like 4 episodes of Frieren, or I guess the first 8 episodes. I have to switch between Frieren and Ghost in the Shell, and then from there, I'll have 24 episodes left of Frieren and 48 episodes left. Oh, okay, yeah. Switch between. I'll have 48 episodes left of Ghost in the Shell, and then I'll have 24 episodes of Vinland Saga to watch. So then I can just do like Ghost in the Shell, Vinland Saga, Ghost in the Shell, Frieren, Ghost in the Shell, Vinland Saga, Ghost in the Shell. So that's just how I like to watch my anime. Don't come at me. Yeah, so those are that. I don't know. It's kind of fun to be watching anime again. I like couldn't enjoy it for like 2 or 3 years. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened.
I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I just like anime again now.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. That's it.
Wow. That's like the shortest you've ever said your content.
That's all let that be an indicator of how much content I've been consuming, aka not a lot. I've been working, and I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast yet, but like I've been keeping busy in the mornings. I'm working on getting a project management professional certification, which requires 35 35 professional development units. So you have to take like a 35-hour course, which I'm taking on Udemy right now. So I spend 3 of my mornings like working on that for like an hour and a half. I bought a masterclass subscription for the year, so I've been taking notes on different masterclasses. I've been watching David Carson's graphic design masterclass. I watched James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. I watched his masterclass. I've been watching Masahiro Sakurai, the director of the Super Smash Bros. Series. I've been watching his Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games YouTube series, which is like a comprehensive video. I don't know if I'd call it a course. It's like an encyclopedia of just different game design aspects. So I've been I've been going through those in the order that he released them and taking notes on them because I take a genuine interest in it, and I'm not going to get a whole lot out of this if I just watch the videos, I feel like I really have to kind of like take notes on them and I keep everything in a spreadsheet, and there's, you know, a lot of things that I can do to, once I have these types of things like written down, there's a lot of different ways now with like AI that you can summarize the stuff or like create study guides for yourself, or use Notebook LM, Google's product, to like create a podcast between two people talking about the thing that you're trying to like reinforce your knowledge on. So yeah, I've just been doing a lot of like that. I'm taking a game development course on Udemy right now, learning the Godot engine. So I'm keeping myself pretty busy in my mornings because I work 30 hours a week, and so I'm trying to take advantage of the other 10 hours working on like just keeping up with this habit of working on these things that I have like a genuine interest in, which is why I've been not writing my reviews anymore, and kind of keeping my mornings productive, so that when I like start work at 11 o'clock and I work until 6, that I'm kind of like warmed up on things that I really enjoy. Not that I don't enjoy work, but like, you know, I'm just kind of like warmed up for the day and can kind of just go head first into work at 11 o'clock and kind of be productive, and, you know, keep the things that are like fun, so to speak, like video games, kind of closer to the end of the day or on the weekend. So yeah, that's just been kind of how I've been living my life. And I've been exercising and reading baby books. I wake up 6 a.m. So yeah, that like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. time frame is it's like my favorite part of the day. Aside from when I get to hang out with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, what the heck?
So yeah, that's where like a lot of my time goes, and that's why my updates have been more sparse, because I used to just like wake up and play video games in the morning. And now I'm kind of like, hey, we've got a baby coming and I want to be the best role model that I can be. So I'm kind of trying to like optimize my life right now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just kind of create these habits that I just kind of go back to on a recurring basis, so that I know these things are going to get interrupted once baby's born, but then once I kind of get back into a semi-regular swing of things, I'll have these things that I've like started that I'm like, yeah, those are the things that I want to pick back up again.
Yeah. I'm like, this is very selfish of me, but I love that you're a morning person, because as soon as baby starts taking bottles, then like you can just be up with the baby and I can sleep, because I am not a morning person. I can sleep till, you know, I wake up at like 7:30, 8. And I can just like have a moment in the morning before it's my turn.
Yeah. And so that's funny. So yeah, I'll have baby in the morning. And I'll probably be like holding baby. So I can't really do these things where I'll be needing to like take notes on things. So I guess I'll just be watching anime.
Well, you never know. Because like, you know, you feed baby, he'll fall back asleep, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm looking mini naps.
Looking forward to figuring it out.
Yeah. But his face will be so cute. You won't even want to do anything else. You'll be like, I just want to look at him.
Yeah. The only thing I've been unsuccessful in being consistent on is drawing, which like drawing I kind of set out to like work, like draw most days during my lunchtime, which like I'm finding I'm like a little too drained by that time to draw. So that's been difficult, because I would like to be a lot more consistent on that, but being realistic, like, you know, it's okay.
Yeah. You've taken on a lot of goals.
Yeah.
At the same time. So I think you can cut yourself some slack when it comes to drawing, because you have like 50 million things you're trying to accomplish.
But it's like I'm not trying to go at any specific pace with these things. I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the habit of doing them, because the more I do that, like these, it's kind of like the lists thing. Like I'm always trying to hack away at some list, and these are things that are finite. Like I will eventually finish the PMP certification course. I will eventually finish Sakurai's videos. I will eventually finish the game design course. And so like there are things after that I have in mind, but these are already like biting off a lot. But it's like just being in the habit of chipping away at them. That's, eventually they will get done. And it also like gives me the headspace to retain the information over the course of the time. But I'm just like sad because I feel like we were drawing so much the first 2 weeks, and I saw like a significant improvement in my drawing ability in those 2 weeks. So like I wish I was being more consistent, because it got me really excited to see like I was drawing so much better than I thought I was capable of.
Yeah. I mean, that skill's still there. Like I drew the other day, and I was, even though like 2 or 3 days had passed since I had last drawn, I was really shocked at how fast and how well I was able to draw what I wanted to draw. Like I drew it, and like there was I don't know, I feel like I did it so quickly, and like didn't have to think twice about some of the like things I was doing, and it just kind of like came together. And I was like, wow, even though I like, it's been a few days, that once you get started, then that like muscle memory is kind of there.
I think where I was drawing, it was either yesterday, I think it was yesterday I took some time to draw, and I tried to draw a circle, and I was like, I was getting so good at drawing circles, and then I like took a week and a half off from drawing, and I tried drawing a circle again. I was like, these circles suck. Like circles are hard.
Yeah, but you're also very precise with your drawing.
No. I mean, with my circles, I'm like trying to be very forgiving with myself, but I'm also like, if I have a circular object around that happens to be the exact size of the type of circle I'm trying to do, I'll just use that object.
Yeah, you're very I feel like you're much more technical with your art than I am. I'm like, I'm just gonna wing it. And see what works.
Technique works really well for me. I respond well to like guidance, structure, best practices.
Yeah, I don't. I like shut down with rules. I feel like rules feel so limiting to me.
Well, see, that's fair. I mean, so like, I've actually found, that David Carson masterclass that I mentioned. He's a famous graphic designer. I actually found his masterclass to be, it's kind of like high level. It's not like super in depth, but I did appreciate kind of some of his talking points about feeling like a little bit more loose. Like he doesn't use grids in any of his designs, and I feel like up until now I've been like so obsessed with grids. Like it's got to fit perfectly on everything, and he's just like screw the rules. I never even had a formal education. I just kind of went with what my eye said. That looks good. So I don't use grids ever. And I was just like, what?
It's very freeing. It makes it more of a relaxing process to me, because I'm not holding myself to any sort of standard.
Right.
I'm just kind of like, what gets thrown on the page is what gets thrown on the page.
Right.
And maybe I like it. Maybe I hate it and think it's bad, but I just try again the next day.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it made me realize, like, how much of a perfectionist I've been trying to be when it came to, like, the artistic side of things. And, like, it's okay to experiment. It's okay for things to just, like, not look as good as you thought they would. And refine and refine and refine. But it's okay to refine without following a formula, so to speak. So he made this really good point. He was like moving around elements on a digital canvas, and he was like, yeah, I mean, I could use the arrow keys to kind of like nudge things to exactly like where I want them to be, or like to like snap the alignment. But he's like, but I don't use that stuff. Like, if you're a good designer, you could just figure it out by hand. Like, just place things, and you're just like, yeah, that's where I want that to go. Yeah, I'm just like, ballsy. That's crazy.
It's so.
But
funny.
I respect that a lot.
It's so funny because I've been watching this like home renovation show lately, and it's called Hometown, and the husband he is like a carpenter. Like he like makes these beautiful like woodworking pieces and things like that. But they were in this house and he was drawing on the wall. He was like trying to draw like a cabinet on the wall just so they could like visualize it. And he's like using like a ruler or like to like, you know, draw the lines perfectly. And his wife just goes, "Why are you doing that? Just draw it." And he's like, "I like to be precise." And I was like, that's us.
Yeah.
I'm like, you like will pull out your ruler and I'm like, just draw it.
I don't know. I mean, some of my drawing, I've been kind of like doing these like learn how to draw in 30-day types of videos where like each day will just be like a different exercise. And I've learned about like 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective. And when you're doing things like 2-point perspective, like kind of the whole point of that lesson is you kind of do need a ruler to like draw these lines to kind of understand like angles and things. So I'm like, you know,
no, it'll benefit you in the long run versus me who will like, I don't know. I'm like, if ever I come across something where I need to do that, I'm just gonna like, be like, I don't know.
So I really like the idea of being able to like make my own video game where the cutscenes are kind of like animated like an anime, but there's like not too many of those cutscenes to where it could realistically be done by one person. What? Like it's not too complex.
Got you.
Like there could just be little brief cutscenes where it's like somebody kind of hand drawn animation. Like a cartoon, like a brief cartoon cutscene.
Yeah.
That could, you know, reasonably be done by one person.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I think my goal right now, drawing wise, is just developing characters. Like.
Yeah, well, I need to work on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to work on that. I'm just trying to learn the fundamentals so that I can like get to the point where I can start drawing original characters.
Yeah.
With
finding your art style.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been just doing a lot of like expressions because that was something that I was like really bad at before, is like making expressive characters that are like, you know, they're angry, they're surprised, they're like, you know, all these sorts of things. And it's been a lot of fun. And also now I'm doing my more diverse character. Like I used to only draw like women. And now I draw men, and I actually love drawing men. And I love drawing men of different ages. I love drawing old men. I drew an old lady the other day.
Yeah, you drew a granny, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was cute. And yeah, so I'm like, I'm having fun. I'm like, I'm trying to be Pixar animator in a few years.
Yeah, I'd like to learn like Blender or something.
Yeah.
At some point. That'd be cool. I'd just like to I want to learn everything.
I know. Like you want to learn everything. Well, you got to start small.
Yeah. Well, I just want to learn how to use the tools that I will need to use in order to make the things that I want to make. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what I want to make is an original story in a video game that's just fun and resonates with people, that is scoped out correctly so that it's something that I could work on by myself as a one-man team.
I can help you storyboard.
Sure. But you got to learn my art style.
Oh my gosh. Storyboarding, it's just like scribbles.
Yeah.
It's not like fully fleshed out,
you
know, drawings.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever get to the point of making my own music, but who knows? Maybe in like 10 years, there'll just be like a 3-year period where I just got like really deep into music making.
I mean, it's not so far-fetched.
I know. I hear you.
You have lots of passions and interests, so I think you could do it.
Well,
that was a long intro.
That was a long. I mean, it was fun. You know, I feel like that's most of the time spent is is doing that. We're like almost 50 minutes deep into this.
Yeah, let's get into our assignments.
Let's do it. All right. I think I'm up first talking about the movie that you assigned me, which was Love and Other Drugs. Do you know what year this movie came out?
2010.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Whoa. That's like way older than I thought it was going to be. Okay.
When did you think it came out?
I don't know, like 2016 or something maybe. Mm-mm. Okay. So Love and Other Drugs came out in 2010. It takes place in the 90s. Excuse me. It follows Jake Gyllenhaal, who is really good at getting people to buy electronics, but he's also really good at getting his coworkers to sleep with him. So that backfires on him when he's caught sleeping with his coworker on the job and loses his job. So his brother, who's got connections, gets him a job as a pharmaceutical rep. So he kind of like learns how to become a pharmaceutical rep, learns how to sell pharmaceuticals, and now he's got to try and sell Zoloft when all the doctors are all about Prozac. And he's working for Pfizer, by the way. Like, I would love to hear some facts about what Pfizer like signed off on for this movie.
I've got you.
Oh, okay, for sure. We will get to that. So he's trying to sell Zoloft to this like very important doctor, and one day he's doing all these different tactics to be really aggressive about like getting in contact with the doctor, and it gets to the point where he's like shadowing the doctor for a day. I don't know how he finagled that one. And
yeah, that seems like they would get like a lawsuit for that.
They should. That's a malpractice lawsuit, 100%. So when he's doing that, he ends up meeting Anne Hathaway's character, Maggie, who is 26 years old and has Parkinson's, and he also sees a little bit of nudity. But then she finds out, like, hey, he's not an intern like he said he was. He's a pharmaceutical rep, and then I don't know.
Which, like, the term intern, like, that's a red flag. They don't, like, doctors don't have interns, don't they? Have, like,
they'd be like students, medical students.
Yeah, it's like, what do they call them? Like trainees or like residents or.
Yeah, I mean, you could have people doing not a post back, like sometimes
scribes.
Not a
scribes.
Well, yeah,
scribes
scribe,
are different.
Yeah,
but scribes are different.
No,
they just take
like,
notes.
So like I used to work at a mental health clinic, and I remember one time this girl shadowed one of the psychiatrists for a day, and this girl was trying to apply to medical school.
Well, see, I feel like when it comes to psychology or like, I mean, psychiatry is like medical doctor, but like doctors that are psychologists, I feel like it's different because I have interned for clinical psychologists, and they like
that's different
exactly.
Because a psychiatrist is a medical doctor.
Well, that's that's what I was like. Maybe
so like
it's different
reasonably
for a
you could
psychiatrist.
do that with a general practitioner or like a primary care provider if it's like signed off on, and the patient like agrees
Consents
to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's like, he's a pharmaceutical rep. Wait a minute. But like, I don't know. I kind of forgot what happened. They start hooking up. And eventually they catch the feels, but then, she's like, no, don't. I'm allowed to handle. I have Parkinson's. And he's like, I don't care. Then he starts selling Viagra instead of Zoloft, and it's super successful. And like, because that's when Viagra like hit the market in the 90s, and like everybody wanted it, like, go figure. And
they were popping Viagra like freaking Skittles.
They were going to like Viagra parties.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I'm like, do they even need it? Like, some of the doctors were using it. Like,
it's like all the old men were excited to use Viagra, and then like all of the women were excited to give their husbands Viagra.
Yeah.
So Viagra's good for everyone. Wink. So yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal gets really good at selling Viagra, which probably just sells itself. And he's hoping to get a big time promotion that'll move him to Chicago. And just in the process of things, he and Anne Hathaway become boyfriend-girlfriend, despite her trying to keep him at arm's length. But he is just persistent because he really likes her. And then once they become boyfriend-girlfriend, he goes a little into overdrive trying to find treatment for her. And eventually she basically says, "Stop it. I don't want to feel like an experiment." And they sort of break up. And he gets his promotion to go to Chicago because he's doing great at selling things. And then he is like, you know what? I love her. Let me go tell her. And he does. And they decide to make it work out despite her being reluctant. It's this whole thing. She's like, "I don't need you to take care of me." And he's like, "Of course you do. Everybody does." And then the music's like,
I forgot about the music.
It like plays this. It's like a song that was written for the movie that plays twice during the emotional scenes.
It's so bad.
And it's just it went on to my content soundtrack playlist.
So
But and then they kiss, and the end. They make it work. That's like the general gist of the movie. I will say, I liked this movie a lot more than I thought I would. But like, when I like zoom out, when I was trying to write this summary, it made me realize like this movie. I don't know if I would call it like a mess. There's just like a lot of details in it that I did not cover that just weren't necessary for like moving the plot forward. Mm-hmm. But the movie also probably wouldn't have been as enjoyable if it didn't have all of those details in it. It just feels like it feels fast paced, but when you zoom out, you're like, maybe this was a little bloated with like stuff that just wasn't relevant to the plot. Mm-hmm. Like there was a rival pharmaceutical rep. There was his brother with the
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad. Yeah, Josh Gad. Like his whole character and his dynamic with like his wife. There's the scene where the woman's like, "I'm Thai curious."
I wish that did not exist. I hate that scene so much.
It's bad.
I hate it.
Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff that I just didn't. There's like a whole, like there's like a solid 30 minutes of developing the relationship, like Anne Hathaway and Jake Gyllenhaal, where I just said, and they start hooking up, and then they become boyfriend and girlfriend eventually, and it's like, I don't know, that's maybe like 40 minutes of the movie. Yeah, is just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, I feel like they're like, having read there's
this coworker. Who he wants the promotion to move to Chicago because that's where his family lives. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. There's just like a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Having read the facts, I feel like there is some nuance to it that kind of just like goes over your head because you're viewing it as just like a rom-com in a sense. But there's like aspects of it that like make sense or made more sense once I read the trivia a little bit.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to point out that you went through pretty quickly, but you mentioned that, you know, they become boyfriend and girlfriend, then he becomes obsessed with like helping her find a cure. Yeah. And then she like breaks up with him because she's like, "I'm not an experiment." One thing I do want to point out, just because I do think it is really important, is that doesn't just like they start dating and then he becomes obsessed. What happens is they go to a Parkinson's conference.
Oh, that's right.
And a man goes up, like talks to him and is like, "Oh, like your girlfriend here has Parkinson's. Like, he's like, I love my wife, but like I would not wish this on anybody. Like it's so hard to watch the person you love like going through this thing. Like first she'll like lose her like motor functioning, and then she'll like kind of just lose herself entirely." And he's like, "It's terrible." And like, run while you can. And so that kind of makes Jake Gyllenhaal then get obsessed with like, okay, let's get the best medical treatment possible because I don't want that happening to Anne Hathaway. And Anne Hathaway kind of comes back and is like, you know, you can't love me unless you know that I'm gonna be okay. Like I'll get better.
Right.
And like the matter of fact is just that I'm not. Like this is just the way my life is gonna go. And so like I'm done. Like what are we doing now? And so yeah, I just wanted to like point that out.
That is an important component to the story.
Yeah.
And you know, when he's like getting her to come back to him at the end of the movie, he's like, maybe there's an alternate universe where we're both totally healthy and everything's fine, and our biggest stress is whether we feel guilty about the fact that we have a cleaning lady or about, you know, XYZ trivial thing. But I don't want that. I want us.
Wow. You like remembered that verbatim.
Yeah. I don't know why I remember that scene so well. Maybe it was the song.
It got to you. The emotional impact. That's so funny. Cool. Are you ready to get into some facts?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this film is actually based on a book called Hard Sell: The Evolution of a Viagra Salesman. And it's written by a former Pfizer representative named Jamie Reedy. However, in the book, there is no like love interest. So like this story is just kind of like made up. But kind of uses him as inspiration for Jake Gyllenhaal's character. So this, you mentioned already, this movie has a lot of nudity. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a ton of, I didn't actually mention how much nudity there is in this movie, but there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of sex in it. Like it's just a very sexual movie, I guess.
I didn't know Anne Hathaway did nudity.
I mean, I think this was her first go at it, like of like doing something so like with so much nudity.
Yeah, I think, well, not that I'm like an expert on this, but I think she had done some for Brokeback Mountain.
Got you.
But I just
at least this is the first.
This is, I mean, this is like
much nudity.
Yeah, this yeah. There was one scene in particular I was like, whoa, I'm getting a lot of Anne Hathaway right now, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah. So, I mean, all the trivia is pretty much about the inclusion of the nudity and like how they felt about it. Yeah. It's
all right.
Like a majority of the facts were about that.
Interesting.
So for starters, at one point, the director, who's Edward Zwick, he jumped into bed with Anne Hathaway and Jake Gyllenhaal naked, apparently, for a group photo. And this was to make them feel more comfortable. And this was actually the shot that's used for the film's poster. And they just edited him out.
Did that go over well with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were fine with it.
Okay, so it's kind of like when Paul Verhoeven took his clothes off for the shower scene in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, as we mentioned, this movie had required a lot of nudity from Anne Hathaway, and because of that, she was given final cut over all of her nude scenes, and so she did choose to take out like a few pieces that she felt the camera was a little intrusive.
Okay.
But
That's
it
good.
seemed like based on everything I read in the trivia, it seemed like the director was pretty good about like whatever they're not comfortable with won't go in the movie.
Okay.
Like he knew it was a lot of nudity and was like, we're only going to do what you all feel most comfortable with. And so something that was interesting is that apparently one side effect of Parkinson's medications is increased sexual desire. And so I think that's at least what the trivia is like alluding to, is like that's why there is so much like sex in the movie.
You can also sell a movie that's got a lot of sex in it.
That too. It's like that. And then on top of like, you also have this like background of like, he does sell Viagra. Like,
right.
It's just like a very
almost
sexually charged movie.
Almost kind of like writes itself. It's like, oh yeah, okay, it'll be about a Viagra salesman and his girlfriend. What's an illness that's got what's an illness that's got drug medications where the side effects is they get really horny. Okay. Parkinson's. Great. All right. Right. We'll give her that.
Oh no.
Oh, that gives it an emotional angle. Yeah. We'll do that, and it'll just be like a lot of sex, but a little sad too.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, I
apologize if that sounded insensitive.
Yeah, I was like, even though there is a lot of sex in the movie, and also an added layer to it is, right, like both of them are very comfortable with sex, but they're very uncomfortable being like vulnerable with each other and like talking to each other about their feelings. Like there's literally one scene where Jake Gyllenhaal tells her he loves her, and he has a full-blown like panic attack.
He has a panic attack
just telling her that, and like she's like trying to soothe him and like touches him, and he's like, don't touch me. She's like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
and he's like, I love you.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for him because, like I said, he's really good at getting people to sleep with him.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, I've never felt an emotional connection to women. What the heck?
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a interesting thing to be like so exposed to somebody, but yet like guarded, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to make any kind of shady comments. It's just earlier. I just want to clarify that. It's just I just wonder what the process was like. Yeah. When they chose to incorporate that.
I think that Anne Hathaway's character is inspired by somebody.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if the like writer of the book has like some sort of anecdote about somebody. I mean, because he was a pharmaceutical rep, so I don't know if he has some sort of like personal anecdote.
Wait, how did you find out that the side effect of Parkinson's medications was like a hyperactive sex drive? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was one of the facts in
that was just one of the facts on this movie?
Yeah.
To help explain why it was such a horny movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Last fun fact, and then I have a comment of my own. So you mentioned Pfizer. You were like, I wonder what Pfizer signed off on. Like,
I mean, they had to have signed off on a lot.
All right, so they put out a statement regarding their involvement in the movie on their website, which you can still find, on November 23rd, 2010. And I'm going to read the statement out to you all.
Yeah, I'm curious.
All right, they said, "We were not involved in the film's production. We're glad to see appropriate attention paid to the complex challenges facing Parkinson's disease patients and their families. Many dedicated scientists and researchers are working to find a cure and improve therapies for those living with Parkinson's and other devastating neurodegenerative diseases, including scientists at Pfizer." And that was all they said.
That's all they said?
That's all they said. So they didn't have it, according to the facts, they didn't have any involvement in the movie.
But it's got like, it mentions their company name.
It mentions a bunch of other...
It mentions the medications that they sell. Like that copyrighted things.
I mean, as far as I found, they didn't have any involvement in it. I don't know. Maybe they care. Maybe they just signed off on like, you can use our branding or whatever. Yeah. But like, we're not gonna, whatever you put in there, we're not, dealing with it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very weird.
It was, because it felt like there was like a little bit of nuance in like, hey, is this good or bad that these pharmaceutical reps are just trying to sell new medications to people? But then it's like full blown, like, hey, here is the name of one of those companies, and here's the medication that they were trying to sell to people at that time, and just willy nilly using their branding. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's like you never see that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have anything else about it other than weird. That statement that was written from them.
That's really weird.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know if you're a farmer. They probably make so much money they don't care. Like whether people have a changed opinion on them after watching this movie really doesn't matter to their bottom line.
Yeah, the one thing that I do want to say, it's like my last point, is like what's crazy to me is I had no knowledge of pharmaceutical companies pre-pandemic. like, I watched this. I've seen this movie obviously before the pandemic happened. I could have thought Pfizer was a made up company. Like, I did not know it was a real thing. And then, like, having,
going through the pandemic and
going through the pandemic, and everyone's like,
Pfizer or Moderna?
Yeah. Like, there was Johnson and Johnson. Yeah.
Like the shampoo people?
Right. I'm like, don't they make baby wash?
Right.
But yeah, having gone through that experience, like, now I'm watching, like, when we went back and watched this, I was like, oh snap, it's Pfizer. Like,
yeah, like
Pfizer.
we all know who Pfizer
we know
is.
Who Pfizer is. And it's just like crazy. Insane.
That's crazy. Did you get Pfizer or Moderna for your COVID-19 vaccine?
I had Pfizer.
I did Moderna.
My last booster was Moderna, and I had asked them, I was like, I've always gotten Pfizer. Is this gonna like mess me up? And he was like, no, it's fine.
No.
But I remember, like, we would like literally talk about like, oh, like, which one did you get? One's has worse side effects than
everybody
like.
said Moderna was better.
No, I heard Pfizer was better.
I heard Moderna was better, but the
Pfizer
side effects were for the first few days were a bit more intense.
With Pfizer?
With Moderna.
Oh, I had like zero side effects with Pfizer, other than like I was a little sleepy that day.
Well, yeah. I just felt like for like a day.
Yeah, everybody. It's because you got Moderna. I'm
Whatever.
telling you, Pfizer was where it's at. I'm a Pfizer girly.
Oh my god, no.
But no. I mean, what happened to Johnson and Johnson?
Oh, I don't know.
They don't like.
They were too late to the game.
Yeah, it's like now you only
go
get,
back
like,
to
two
shampoo. Nobody invited you
I also
here.
feel like
I'm
I've
just
heard,
kidding. They
like,
probably make so many medications that we don't even
They probably do
know about.
But I also feel like I've heard the most shady things about Johnson and Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, even their baby products. Like, I don't think people recommend using their baby products.
I have no official comment on this. I
mean, I don't know. Big Pharma don't come for me.
I don't know. Yeah, please, Big Pharma don't come for me either. We don't know anything about your industry.
No.
I mean, I know a little bit.
You probably know more than me.
I probably know more than you do, but I don't know a lot.
Yeah. Anyway,
healthcare should be free.
Facts.
So, Deja Vu?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right.
Deja Vu came out in 2006. And so in this movie, Denzel Washington plays Doug Carlin, who is an ATF agent, which is short for the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Department, which
is real, by the way.
I know, because I Googled what it stood for because I forgot. And I didn't look into it because I figured you would have something to say about it. But during the movie, I was like, why is there a department for alcohol and tobacco when both of those things are legal? The firearms and the explosives makes a lot of sense. But I'm like, is it about the regulation of it? Is it about like...
Yeah, it's because they are like controlled substances, so to speak. They are things that in this country we have a history of like selling illegally or trafficking in some way or form or capacity. I'm assuming that given that he shows up to an explosion, the firearms and explosions component of the ATF is slightly more important, but I'm sure, alcohol and tobacco comes in every once in a while. They're like, oh, I got a tobacco case today. That's different.
Cigarettes were being sold to 15-year-olds? Oh, no.
Yeah. Get the ATF agents on. Send in Denzel.
Crazy. So anyways, the movie starts, like you said, with a very large boat blowing up and killing tons of people, including the children, which is so sad. And Doug is the man on the job to kind of figure out what's going on. So while starting his investigation on who put this bomb on this boat, he gets notified that a dead woman has washed up on the shore. And so he goes to check it out, and it turns out to be this woman whose name is Claire. But she was murdered before the boat exploded, and whoever killed her is responsible for the boat as well. And so this leads him to collaborating with a new like secret government agency or team that's investigating the boat explosion with some sort of new technology that lets them watch the past 4 days. And so this is the point in the movie where
it lets them watch like a stream of what happened exactly 4.5 days ago.
Yes. And this is where we get into the parabolic calculus of it all.
Yes.
So, okay, this is a really short summary, so I'm skipping out on a lot of detail. But Doug asked the team to locate Claire, the woman who he had found dead. And he kind of becomes obsessed with saving this woman. So he's like watching this live stream of everything that she was doing, which is like super creepy.
Right. Back when she was alive.
Right.
Even though she's now dead.
Right. And so he becomes obsessed with saving her, and he asks the team to send him back to the past in order to save her.
Okay, you skipped a lot.
I'm skipping a lot, I know. But it's like there's too much for me to go through it all. We can talk about it.
Well, we should mention the fact that, like, you know, they try to make it seem like, yeah, we have these satellites that just combined, like, images and videos from different angles from 4.5 days ago.
Right. He's like, how do you get the audio?
He's like, yeah, how do you get audio on people? Yeah. So, like, they try to explain it like, yeah, we have these satellites that just picked up all these things, and it's just, like, a lot of data, so it has to stream, and that's the explanation they try to give him. But then it turns out it's like, no, we've actually, like, created some,
see the past,
like, this is the past.
It's like a
and
multiverse kind of
right,
thing, like an alternate timeline,
right,
sort of thing.
And it's like at one point Claire is with like her, she's babysitting,
yeah,
and he points his
like
laser pointer at the screen that he's watching her on, and she reacts to seeing a laser pointer, like a red dot on the lampshade next to her, and he's like, what was that? Like, she noticed the dot, and they're all like, and then they do like that typical explanation that they always do in science fiction movies when they're explaining how time travel works, where they take the piece of paper and they say, here's this point on one end of the paper and here's this point on the other paper, and then they just fold the paper in half, and they're like, we figured out how to connect them. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I skipped all that because it's just too much.
So he broaches the topic, and he says, like, is she alive or is she dead?
Yeah.
You know, because, like, to his knowledge, she's dead, but she's reacting to his laser pointer. So he's like, is she alive or is she dead? And they say she's alive. Yeah. So he decides he's going to go back in time.
He's like, send me back. I'm going to save her. So
this is like after they've already taken out the guy who did it. They've already arrested the guy who did it by the time he decides he's going to go back in time.
Yeah. But he wants to save her and all the people on the boat.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what they end up doing. They successfully send him back to the past. And he tracks down Claire, and he ends up saving both her and the patrons on the boat. But in the process, dun dun dun, he dies. So you're like, oh no, he's dead. However, it's not all sadness, because his present day self is still alive.
Yeah.
And so in he comes to investigate the boat, as we saw in the very beginning of the movie. And Claire's like, oh my gosh, it's him. He's alive. And it's this whole moment where they're talking, and he's about to be like, I'm having deja vu. Like, he's like, do you know me?
Like, it's like he's about to say, like, I'm having deja vu, and you're thinking, like, he's thinking he's going to say, I'm having deja vu, and then he just goes, nah.
Yeah. It's like a whole little joke. And yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, and there's a lot in there.
Yeah, there is a lot, but I feel like it's better for you to just watch it than for us to try and explain it.
Sure.
It's much more fun.
So, okay, what do you think about the fact that, like, there are like clues from when he goes at the beginning of the movie. He finds out that she's dead, so he investigates her apartment, and there are kind of like these things laying around in different places, or like, and you know, later when the crime scene people are kind of looking over, forensics is looking over her house.
Yeah.
They're like,
you left your fingerprints everywhere.
Your fingerprints are everywhere.
Even though he was wearing gloves when he went in there.
And you find out the reason why is because he goes back in time and he's helping her out, and it's like all of these things that were placed around at the beginning of the movie when he went to investigate it, like it was because he was there, but at the beginning of the movie happens because the explosion on the boat happens, but then when he goes back in time at the end of the movie, he stops the explosion from happening. So it's like, well, what happened that he did not stop the explosion at the beginning of the movie if he did go back in time? Like what, like that's, I think that's one criticism for the movie is like, it's not clear like what changed other than the fact that we're watching a movie.
Yeah.
And it has to be successful at the end of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, okay, lots of thoughts. One, in terms of like, from a movie making perspective of like leaving some clues and, you know, putting the pieces together a little bit later, or seeing like why those clues were left. This movie was not subtle about leaving those clues. So it's like very clear, like you see it and you're like, okay, that's going to be important later. Like I'm going to see that again later. So in terms of like shock factor, once we get to the point where he like himself is leaving those clues, I was like, yeah, because like why else would she have "you can save her" on her refrigerator?
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like that. Yeah, it just wasn't subtle at all. Now I'm very confused. I don't know. It feels like I'm like, how is this not going in like a loop?
Right.
Like that doesn't make sense to
right.
me.
Like what changes the loop?
Right.
That's not explained at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree that it's very confusing once you've watched the whole thing and you're like, huh?
All right, but hear me out. What year did this come out? 2006?
Yeah.
So I was 11 when this movie came out, and my mom, we got the DVD on Netflix in the mail. Mm-hmm. And we watched this movie so many times because I thought it was great.
Yeah.
When I was 11, I was like, that movie was cool. And I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
And we watched it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly the movie I remember. But now I'm an adult and I'm like, yeah, there are problems here.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say. In terms of my overall thoughts of the movie, this was an enjoyable movie. It was a fun watch. Is it a good movie? No. It's not a great movie. Like, I mean, in terms, if we're comparing it to like freaking Source Code, it's way better. But like,
I don't even think Source Code was that bad.
I
thought Source Code was like a totally enjoyable movie.
Source Code.
We just like to make fun of the science of it.
I need to go back and listen to that episode because I feel like I thought Source Code was like nonsensical.
I mean, a little.
I mean, this is also kind of nonsensical.
A little, but
Denzel.
like, right. Well, so that's the other thing. Like, Denzel definitely makes this movie work better than it would have if you put Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie. Nah.
Yeah, because you're willing to go along with the nonsense when it's Denzel because he's just like, you know, he's a phenomenal actor.
Well, and also, while all of like, you know, he's watching, they spend all those scenes where they're like watching the video feed from 4.5 days ago and they're like changing the angle of the shot and all of this stuff and they get the audio and like Denzel said, this was in the trivia, Denzel considers his character to be the voice of the audience because he's asking all of the questions that you are thinking.
He's like, what is this?
He's like, what is this? How does it does that? How does that work?
Why is this happening? Yeah. Why are you able to do that? Yeah. But like the answers aren't clear.
No, because they just do the whole fold the paper on both ends and it's connected.
And then he's like,
explanation.
Whatever, send me back.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, we can't even do that. Like, we can't send things back. Like, you'll die. But then it's like, yeah, let's do it anyway.
I mean, he did die.
He did die. They send him back to a hospital, and so they resuscitate him.
Which, like, can you imagine? Because they were like in surgery, and all of a sudden Denzel with a note on him saying, "Bring me back to life."
Yeah,
like it's on a gurney, like,
right? And he's just like, yeah, seizure, yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh,
that was pretty wild.
It was wild.
Well,
not as wild as them trying to convince us that Paula Patton is Latina.
I was waiting. I'm surprised it took you this long to bring that up. So Paula Patton plays what's the character's name? Claire Kuchever, which is very. I've never heard that last name in my life.
I mean, everyone had interesting last names in this movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, Claire's father is a character who is played by this actor who
played by Memo.
He played Memo in My Family from our last episode. Yeah. So we know, like, okay, well, that guy is Mexican. Paula Patton is not half Mexican. No. Like, we looked that up. We made sure.
Yeah. Like, she's half black.
Right.
She's black and white.
Right. So yeah, that's something
like, she's racially ambiguous.
You just gotta get over it. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, this was her breakout role.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, Paula Patton. With your breakout roles with Denzel.
That's pretty good.
Winning.
Yeah. Jim Caviezel is also in this movie.
Who is that?
He played the actual, like, guy that made the explosions happen, like the actual terrorist in the movie.
Yeah.
So his character is like, yeah, a little bit of a terrorist, a little bit, yeah, a little bit of a, like, apparently he kind of does like a Nazi salute at one point. I don't remember catching that.
I don't remember that either.
But apparently he did it with his left hand, which apparently is more of like a KKK thing.
I didn't know there were differences with whatever hand you use.
That also was in the trivia. The trivia said to Americans, it doesn't really matter which hand it is. It's just
it all Nazi. Seems bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he received criticism from some Christian churches for playing this character right after he played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. Mm-hmm. That criticism did not go mainstream. But of note, with Jim Caviezel having played Jesus in 2004, there's like this car chase in the movie where Denzel has to wear this like mobile rig because their little like see into the past machine only has like a specific radius, and they're following the killer for like his activities 4.5 days prior, and he's going out of range, so Denzel has to like hop in a Hummer with like this mobile rig and like drive around the city to like, you know, get outside of range so that they could see what the killer was up to 4.5 days ago.
Which, like, I swear Denzel murdered, like, had to have
he had to have injured
quite a few people.
Many people in that scene, because there were cars like flipping because he was just like, he was on a bridge and he was like, oh, the killer went the other way. Well, because he's on an active road in the middle of the day trying to follow like the killer when it was the middle of the night when the killer was driving around. He would have been arrested. Right. He would have been arrested. But it was like an army vehicle though. So there's that.
It doesn't matter.
I know. He's an ATF agent. So near the end of that chase scene, Denzel's character, like, he pauses because he sees the terrorist's face, Jim Caviezel, and apparently his character originally, like, he pauses, he stops, he sees his face, and he goes, Jesus. Which caused the audience at the first preview screening to erupt into laughter because Jim Caviezel played Jesus.
Yeah.
So, which was like totally unintentional on the part of the director, Tony Scott. So he had to remove the line from the film before it got released. What? Because it just made people laugh. But that was like my favorite piece of trivia. He just pauses. Jesus. It's like, yeah, that is Jesus. All right, let me get into some other trivia here. Apparently, Deja Vu is one of the most expensive script purchases of all time. and it cost $4.5 million to purchase the script.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. All right. Here's another piece of trivia. The screenwriters, Terry Rossio and Bill Marsili, they didn't like. So the movie was directed by Tony Scott, the late Tony Scott. He is the brother of Ridley Scott. They didn't feel like Tony Scott really captured the science of their screenplay that they had written. They felt like he was a lot more interested in the action scenes than he was interested in like
Parabolic
making
calculus.
time travel make sense. So they felt like they wrote a plot that was like a little more bulletproof and made a lot more sense, but they felt like in with how he made the movie that it was filled with a lot more plot holes. One of them didn't even watch the movie. He was so upset.
Wow.
And Tony Scott admitted that he didn't think he did the best job with the movie, but he also blamed it on the fact that they filmed the movie in 19 weeks, which wasn't as much time as he maybe needed. And I think that's a little fair. 19 weeks is pretty short for a movie of this, like, ambition.
I mean, I don't think the movie was bad, though.
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah. I don't know. I like these movies with these, like, pseudoscience stuff. I don't know. It's just, like, I feel like the more you try and put in, the worse it gets, you know? Like, the more you try to explain it, the more nonsensical it sounds. And so, like, by kind of, like, glossing over it, I feel like it does it a benefit. Like, they didn't spend too much time on explaining the technology of it all, and like that it was perfect, you know. Had they kept trying to fiddle with it or whatever, I feel like I would have been like, all right, this is too much nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, let me give you some other facts here. Jim Caviezel decided at the last minute that there's a stunt where he gets hit by a car, and at the last minute he decided, I'm going to do that stunt myself. And if he had gotten injured, he could have been paralyzed. But which, like, an actor, there's no way the insurance company would have signed off on that. But I digress.
Are there like movie specific insurance companies?
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. Val Kilmer. We didn't even mention Val Kilmer's in this movie.
Who's that?
Who's Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
He was the guy that was like the head of the secret team or whatever. He's the one that approached Denzel and was like,
"Be on my team.
We're starting up a team, Avengers style." Yeah. So, Tony Scott and Val Kilmer got some shirts made for the crew that said, Malcolm X, Jesus Christ, and Jim Morrison. Deja Vu. How can we fail? Because Denzel played Malcolm X,
yeah.
Jim Caviezel played Jesus, and Val Kilmer played Jim Morrison, who, if you don't know who that is, shame on you. That's you. Yeah, you don't know who that is. He was the lead singer of The Doors. Anyway,
what is The Doors?
The Doors, you know that song, Break On Through to the Other Side?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And Jim Morrison died young.
Wow.
And Val Kilmer played him in a movie.
Well, I thought you were going to say it was some, like, I don't know, big bad politician or something I should know. I'm much less ashamed of not knowing who the singer of The Doors is.
Whatever. I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the museum in Cleveland, Ohio in like 2004 or 5 or 6, somewhere in that time frame, and they had a massive exhibit dedicated to, like, a whole experience dedicated to Jim Morrison.
I believe it. Why? What makes him so special?
I don't know. He died young. Anyway, Val Kilmer also. So when we were writing down our facts, I was like, this is such a dumb piece of trivia, but I wrote it down. So apparently Val Kilmer said one of the reasons he wanted to work with Denzel was because their kids once went to the same LA school.
That's in the end of the sentence?
That's the end of the sentence.
Okay.
I'm like, well, why didn't you just want to work with Denzel? Because it was an opportunity to work with Denzel.
I know. I'm like, I can list a whole list of things of why I would want to work with Denzel.
Oh, our kids go to the same school. Yeah, I want to work with him.
Yeah. Like, what?
I mean, I'm sure that like happens in real life, but like,
sure,
when it's Denzel, you just want to work with him because it's Denzel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Denzel.
Also, earlier I asked you to clarify that Denzel's son's name was indeed John David Washington, and I was just trying to make sure that that was correct, to make sure that this didn't apply to like another son of Denzel that I didn't know about. But this piece of trivia said that Denzel took a brief break during the production of the movie to congratulate his son, John David Washington, because John David Washington had signed in 2006 with the St. Louis Rams as an undrafted free agent. And apparently the coach, Scott Linehan of the Rams, was Jim Caviezel's brother-in-law and didn't even know that John David was Denzel's son until the press was talking about it.
Wait.
And I'm like, wait. John David Washington played for the Rams?
What? You need to verify.
All right, I'll verify. I'm working on it.
Cause like what?
Right? Like he's too small of a guy to have been a football player, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on what position, but like.
John David Washington is an American actor and former professional football player. He played college football at Morehouse College and in 2006 signed as an undrafted free agent with the St. Louis Rams. He later played running back for the Sacramento Mountain Lions in the United Football League. Washington's acting career includes starring in the HBO comedy series Ballers from 2015 to 2019. He also played Ron Stallworth in Spike Lee's 2018 crime film BlacKkKlansman.
Wow. I just learned something new about John David Washington.
Yeah, 2 seasons, it says. He was cut after 2 seasons.
Dang.
Yeah.
What a talented man.
Played in the United Football League before an injury put an end to his professional football career.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And now he's like an actor, just like Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bet you didn't know that.
No, I would have never expected that.
No. Okay. And let's see. My final facts are more so just about the production of the movie and the fact that this movie takes place in New Orleans. And Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans in 2004. And the movie... So the original setting for this movie was Long Island, New York, and then Tony Scott changed it to New Orleans. And the movie went through pre-production in New Orleans. And a few weeks before production was supposed to begin, Hurricane Katrina hit the city. And so the location was, in ruins, and New Orleans struggled, and they snapped back. They came back stronger than ever. And the movie had made the decision to find a new location to shoot, but then a few weeks after they had made that decision, they were going to cancel the movie altogether. But then 3 months after the hurricane, the film ended up returning to New Orleans, and they began pre-production again and ended up being set in New Orleans. And they held, Tony Scott, Denzel, Val Kilmer, and Jim Caviezel even held a news conference upon their arrival to New Orleans to announce that they intended to employ local New Orleans community members and incorporate post-Katrina New Orleans into the story of the film. And disaster relief teams who had helped with Hurricane Katrina were recruited to help make the film, and the end credits pay tribute to their bravery. Also, the ferry explosion was the biggest stunt ever filmed in New Orleans. And then my final fact is that the first assistant cameraman on the movie, his name was Michael S. Endler. While he was working on the movie, he learned that his father, Gerald Endler, had died. And Gerald Endler was a former special effects technician who had worked with many of the effects crew that was working on this film. He'd worked with them like decades earlier on other projects. So to pay tribute to him, Michael, the first assistant cameraman on the day of shooting the ferry explosion, was allowed to place some of his father's ashes on a gasoline-filled water jug that was blown up as part of the pyrotechnics of the sequence. And yeah, that's my final fact.
Wow.
There you go. Deja Vu.
Crazy movie.
Yeah, very parabolically calculated. All right, let's do next episode's assignments.
Sounds good. Should I go first?
Go for it.
Okay. Now that we're in February, which is Black History Month, love it. And we are approaching Valentine's Day. I decided that I would give you a rom-com with a predominantly black cast. And so I'm going to give you Two Can Play That Game with Vivica Fox and Morris Chestnut.
Vivica A. Fox. Thank you.
Sorry. And Morris Chestnut.
Ooh.
Yep.
I love me some Morris Chestnut.
Don't we all?
Two Can Play That Game?
Yep.
Is it like a rom-com?
Yep.
What year did it come out?
Ooh, I feel like it was like around the same time as like Deliver Us from Eva.
97 or 2003. Yeah.
Hold on, let me
Like
look it up.
that sounds like if it's Vivica A. Fox,
Yeah.
then that sounds like late 90s, early 2000s.
2001.
Gotcha. Yeah, there you go. Because Morris Chestnut, like, it could be anything.
Yeah.
You know, he makes those movies now.
Yeah. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of like a Deliver Us from Eva, but like more fun.
Don't you mean better late than Eva?
And I'm pretty sure Gabrielle Union is in this movie.
It.
It's been a while since I've seen it. She is.
Two Can Play That Game?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I do not have a Valentine's Day pick with a predominantly black cast. I do have a movie that I was thinking about giving you, which then you mentioned Valentine's Day, and I was like, oh, okay, like I think there's a romantic subplot to this movie. So I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna give you I wanna say it's an 80s dark fantasy movie called Lady Hawk. Have you heard of it?
No.
All right. My mom showed this movie to me when I was a wee youngin' sick home from school. And, she showed me that movie.
Interesting.
And it's, it's what I mentioned to you earlier. Like it feels like a fever dream trying to remember it. I'm not even sure I've actually seen the ending of it, but I've seen a lot of it. And I like remember it pretty well. But I'm also like, because it's 80s dark fantasy, it almost feels like, was that a dream? But it's like, no, it was real.
I mean, isn't that all 80s dark fantasy? Isn't
Yeah.
that everything in the 80s is just a fever dream?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Good stuff. So that means next week's episode, join us for I don't know what episode number that'll be. 108. Lady Hawk and Two Can Play That Game.
Wow. They
Fun.
seem like very different movies.
Yeah, very different movies. But a connecting through line of romance.
Potentially.
But I know where the romance connection lies in my movie. I'm just not sure how
romancy it is.
Romantic it will be.
Yeah.
But I'm fairly certain there will be fog machines.
Oh God, of course. It's the 80s.
And lights.
It's
like
the 80s.
Like strong light streams. All right, cool.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm not saying like flashing lights, but just like, you know that aesthetic of like a fog machine and then like you shine a light through it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's some of that, but it's dark fantasy. I think. I don't know. Like I said, it feels like a dream. We'll find out.
I'm thoroughly confused, but okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll watch it.
Somebody you know is in it.
Cool.
Yeah. Actors that you are familiar with are in it. At least 2.
Cool. I'm pretty proud I made it through this whole thing without having to go pee.
Good job. I guess I'll just keep that in. That's a little treat for the listener if you made it all the way to the end of the episode. All right, next time we will see you. I don't know why I said it like that. We'll see you next time.
Next time we will see you.
We'll be watching. Next time we'll be listening to you. All right. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Bye.
Bye.